I think there should be no transgenders.
When you think about the 2024 election, what issues are most important to you?
I'm a male. I was born a male. My wife was born a female. That's an issue.
So the trans movement.
Yeah, that's weird.
So can I ask you a question about the trans movement?
Yeah.
So, do you have kids?
Yeah.
So say you bring your kid to the doctor and they have ADHD and they try to prescribe them Adderall. Do you think the government should be able to step in and say like, hey, this treatment is not okay? Or should it be between the doctor and the parent?
Anything should be between the doctor and the parent.
So can you apply that to the trans issue? If someone brings their kid to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, this set of actions is the best, do you think the government should be able to step in and have a say?
Well, no. Anything. I mean, I would be against the parent trying to change the gender of the child,
yeah,
but
of
it's
course.
still up to the parent to do that. The
Of
parent
course.
has to live with their decision, not the government.
I agree. Sometimes, see, I like small government, so sometimes it scares me when the government tries to overreach and try to tell parents what they can and cannot
The
do.
government was originally set up to take care of foreign affairs for our government,
Yeah.
for our people, and that's what we should go back to. They should not be in our bedrooms, in our kitchens, in any room of our house, in our lives at all. You know, they should be protecting us from the foreign entities that are out there.
You're okay with gay marriage, though, right? Is that different?
If a gay man wants to marry a gay woman, I'm all for it.
I think there should be no transgenders. I'm pretty sure there's only 2 different genders that are born, and that gives 2 different types of sex.
But even with there being 2 genders, that can still fit under the transgender worldview because you're just switching from generally masculine features to feminine features.
A woman has female reproductive organs, and a male has male reproductive organs, and that's about it.
Do you look at people's genitals when you're figuring out whether to call them sir or ma'am? Or do you generally look at a vague set of social characteristics?
You can, just by walking around, you can tell by the way their voice is. You can just what's more about your morals, what's morally right in this world.
So you can look at people and know if they're transgender based off their morals?
A person knows if they're men or women, and that they know their morals and know if it's right. And
I totally agree.
To be honest is a big thing. We're all about honesty in this country. So if they know they're a woman, generally you'll know if they're a woman just by the way they walk, the way they're.
This sounds pro-trans to me, though. So you're saying if somebody knows they're a woman and they walk around with features that are looking like a woman, then they can be considered a woman.
It's a mental illness that just it may not happen quickly, but it slowly starts to eat away at you. And we see this with people who detransition, who come out and say, I was basically lied to by these medical professionals who told me all my problems would be solved when it just made them worse.
But at the same time, 80% of trans people report having a higher quality of life after either socially or surgically transitioning. And this has been studied through and through.
By which, do you have the...
No, it's like the National National Institute of Health. If you look up National Institute of Health, gender affirming care statistics, there's self-reported, you don't believe it?
I don't buy into their statistics, no.
There's both self-reported statistics where people report how they feel. You still think so? So you don't think gender dysphoria is real at all?
I think in extreme, because you do have people who are born, like 1 in like 50,000 people are born where the genetics...
Intersex people,
And I do think that gender dysphoria as a mental illness does exist, but we're doing it all wrong. We need to be treating it.
But this is treating it. Like gender affirming care is the way that you treat it, either socially or surgically.
But what about psychologically? You know, going into why do you think you're like this? Why do you make yourself believe that?
Well, how gender dysphoria has been explained to me, it's basically that your brain is mismatched with your body, right? So the goal is for your body to align more with your brain. And you can do that either through dressing a certain way, through getting surgery, and these people report having a better quality of life after they are able to dress how they want. So I just don't see the issue, you know?
I don't see how dressing the way that you feel is the exact same thing as surgically chopping up.
It's not, but these all go under the umbrella of gender affirming care is what I'm saying. And gender affirming care does work, which is what you seem to disagree with, sort of.
I do think that it's important, especially with young kids who aren't fully developed mentally, who might not even know what they want to do, to make sure that we have protections, to make sure that people aren't making permanent changes at a point so young and so vulnerable to be influenced.
Kids aren't making permanent changes en masse like conservatives tend to think. I'm pretty sure there's less than 1,000 surgeries that have happened, and usually they're like 17, 16. And before kids are able to have any sort of surgery, you need to go through years of therapy and puberty blockers. So it's not really a thing that happens, I feel like. If I see a gay couple walking down the street, I'm not sure how that directly affects me. And as far as
so ultimately, I think, where's the line? Like, where is the line when we're going to be like, and I actually know gay people. Like, I have a friend, I'm actually going to see her tonight. She's meeting me up at this General Flynn event, and she's totally against gay marriage. Now, she is a lesbian, totally against gay marriage. But first off, I don't think the government should be involved with marriage at all. I don't think they should be involved with, go ahead.
No, that brings me on to my next point. I didn't mean to cut you off, but when it comes to trans children or trans people in general, I don't think the government should be able to step in and stop people from getting the treatment they would want. So if you can imagine a family, say like a mom and a dad bring their kid to the doctor, and that kid, the doctor, the mom and the dad, and maybe a therapist on the side all agree that some form of gender affirming care is the best way to go, do you think the government should be able to step in and stop that with a 16-year-old kid?
I think what we should be looking at is the fact that the government is encouraging it.
Again, I just don't see the harm in a parent, a doctor, and their kid having the freedom to choose what they want to do. And this, honestly, I don't see our institutions pushing gay people at all. I think they let people know that it's okay to love who you want. It's kind of analogous, you've probably heard this analogy before, but left-handedness used to be really, really low. Like, nobody was left-handed because the government, or not the government, but institutions would basically punish you if you were left-handed. And then as the years went on, as we showed that, okay, you can be right or left-handed, there's charts showing this, the amount of left-handed people skyrocket. I think that's what we're seeing now. When there's more representation in culture, when there's more representation in the media, then people love who they want. And there's this term called heteronormativity, which means that, like, and normatively, everybody is straight in these shows. So if you're watching a show and you see a straight couple go on screen, you're not going to second guess it. You're going to be like, oh, that is just a straight couple. But the second a gay couple goes on screen, people are like, why are they gay? Why are there two gay people? You keep making this vague appeal to common sense. And I just don't believe this idea that your common sense supersedes this whole body of science. You keep coming up with these hypothetical articles. Like, what if there was an article saying that you could turn into a cat? What if there was an article saying Jupiter didn't exist? The thing is, none of these studies exist, and they don't exist for a reason, because if this had been studied, they would come to the conclusion that it doesn't work. But the reason there are studies showing that gender affirming care works is because currently our science believes that gender affirming care is the best way to go. So I don't like all these hypothetical articles or studies that you keep bringing up that just don't exist. They don't exist for a reason. The same reason that there's not a study that exists saying that you cut off your arm. And again, if there are studies done from independent organizations in all of these different countries, all of these different societies that say that gender affirming care is the best way to go about it, I'm sorry, but you, 17-year-old Hannah Faulkner, or Matt Walsh, or whoever the hell, I'm sorry, but these people aren't going to supersede a therapist, a doctor, a psychiatrist, people that know what they're talking about. And I don't like this appeal to common sense you keep making, because you can say common sense over and over, but is it common sense? Is it common sense to just like basically get rid of all the modern science that we have and just go back to what we knew 40 years ago?
I mean, does it make sense to just cut off someone's natural, healthy breast and genitals just because they feel like they're the opposite gender? Does that make sense? Because to me, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't make sense that we have teachers and doctors and people in our society encouraging children to go down this path of destruction, which is a lie. It goes. Yeah, you can deny it all day long. That's it takes that I'm bringing in common sense. Yeah, because it is. It's just common sense. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this stuff out. 50 years ago, if I was talking to my grandma or my great-grandpa or my, actually it was my great-grandfather that fought in World War II. Yeah, like if I would have mentioned this to him, he'd say, you're absolutely insane. This is never going to happen. These kids are not going to be cutting off their, what in the world are you talking about? Like, this is disgusting.
Well, this was probably also a time,
why would you bring something so stupid up?
Well, yeah, if I told people 60 years ago that black and white people would be drinking from the same water fountain, they'd be like, what? What are you talking about? That's the cool thing about society and science, is that we progress as a culture. If I told people 200 years ago that black people wouldn't be enslaved anymore, they'd be like, are you kidding me? My slaves will be gone? I'd be like, yeah, like this is how things happen. Science progresses, essentially.